There's nothing more satisfying than finding the perfect green paint for your living room. Except maybe popping open that can of Valspar Ultra and rolling that first smooth stroke on the wall. And there's nothing more satisfying than admiring your freshly painted wall.
Ooh.
Except maybe peeling off the painter's tape to see those crisp edges. But the most satisfying part of all? Valspar Ultra's price tag, starting at $29.98 a gallon. Affordable, durable, available at Lowe's. Price varies by Shein.
If your brain is at full capacity with to-dos, birthdays, and dinner plans, meet Skylight Calendar. It syncs your entire family's schedule onto a sleek digital display, so you focus on important things like where you left your coffee. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/talk. Go to skylightcal.com/talk for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/talk.
Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and as always, we have a great show for you tonight. We're going to be starting out with another round of discussions on the Coaches Corner panel here in just a moment, and I've got everybody waiting in the wings, and I'll introduce them here in just a minute. And then a little bit later on, my good friend Byron Casper, international PGA member, and of course, co-founder of the Billy Casper golf schools, will be joining me here on the second half of the show. But let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the blogtalkradio.com network. And best way to find us is go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, or just simply type Golf Talk Live in the search key, and that'll bring you to the main page. For some reason, if you can't join us live, not a problem. Just scroll down that page to the on-demand section. And, of course, all of the previously aired shows will be there in their entirety in the recorded version, so you can listen to them when it's convenient for you to do so. Some other great ways to tune into the show as well. Go to iTunes.com, Stitcher.com, TuneIn.com, and now TalkStreamLive.com, or some of the other social media platforms that you can listen live to the program, or recorded version, whatever is, again, convenient for you. Some other ways to communicate as well. You can also call into the show anytime during the live broadcast, Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central. The number to call in is area code 646-716-4667. If you want to talk to either myself or any of the coaches or any of my special guests, you're welcome to do so. You can also reach out to me through my email, and my email is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. So if you're somebody in the golf profession, as an example, and maybe you're interested in coming on to the show, you're welcome to do so by reaching out to me through that email, and I'll check my schedule and make arrangements to get you on. But as I mentioned, we've got a great discussion to start things off with the Coaches Corner panel. So let me introduce everybody, and then I'll bring them on. First up, of course, is Allison Kurt. She's a PGA Master Professional in Instruction and an LPGA Class A member, one of 11 women to achieve the highest PGA credential earned by an instructor. She's also has over 28 years of golf competition background and played on a full scholarship at FSU while earning degrees in psychology and professional golf management. Also, my good friend John Hughes, PGA Master Professional as well, and the president of the North Florida PGA section, and the recipient of the 2013 PGA America Horton Smith Award, as well as a top 30 instructor with Golf Tips magazine. Also, another good friend, Peter Gazarian. He's both PGA and TPI teacher professional with the Traconic Golf Club. He's also the head men's golf coach with the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, and he's also the founder of Northeast Golf Performance and a member of the Proponent Group. And rounding out the panel, of course, last but not least, is Bill Abrams. He's a PGA professional and owner, director of instruction for Golf Solutions Academy at Balmoral Woods in Crete, Illinois, and also the Golf Channel Academy with David Impastato at Heron Bay in Coral Springs, Florida. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Coach's Corner.
Thanks for having us, Ted.
All right, appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for jumping in. All right, we're going to start off with kind of an interesting question here, and very willingly, or maybe not too willingly, Bill has decided to get under the bus first with the first question. So, Bill, this is going to go to you first. Of course, everybody's going to answer this. But let me just explain a little bit in a little bit more detail. I kind of gave the panel sort of heads up before we started. Obviously, I know all of you have very unique gifts and talents. You're all wonderful certified golf professionals and coaches and so on and so forth. However, I want you to set that aside for a moment, if you will, all of your credentials, and just look at yourself for this particular question as obviously a golf instructor or coach. And if I was coming to you as a potential new student or client, how would you sell yourself to me? Why would I want to come and either take lessons or get into a program with you? What are some of the unique things that you're going to do for me? And that's not to go against anybody else, but I want you to sort of ingrain a little bit of what it is that you're going to do to help improve my game. Bill, you go first.
Yeah, very good question, Ted. And you get this a lot. So here's where I would go. You're a very new player. Let me ask you a couple questions here. How new are you to the game? Have you ever played? Have you ever practiced?
I've played a little bit, but not a lot. Practiced a little bit. I might play a couple times a year, and maybe in an event, a corporate event, but don't really play a lot.
First thing I'm going to ask you, if I could improve one shot in your game that would encourage you to play much more golf, what would it be? And that's where I go with the student. I would ask you that.
Right. And obviously I would want to be able to make better contact or more consistent contact would be probably my answer to that. Go ahead.
Okay. There's my starting point. Now, Ted, we'll show you a way very simply so you can be very consistent. One of the things that we do is we're going to work as a team to allow you to play as well as you want to. I want you to have the emotions of striking very, very good shots. And I want you to have emotions that you've never, ever had about golf before. And see the ball fly the way you'd like it to and make you very happy with the game. In my side of it, I'm going to work diligently with you, and we're going to find a way, and the very key focus is that we have to be on, so when you practice and play, you're going to be able to play this game. Everybody you want to play a little more consistently. We're going to work a lot on how you stand up, how you set up to the ball, and how you think to bring that consistency. Because those are the two areas that we can do. If we can keep you focused as opposed to having 47 thoughts in your mind, we're going to help you get to where you want to be and even exceed that.
I like that. Great answer. Peter, I'm gonna jump to you next, if you don't mind. And let me just say we'll sort of play with this theme that since Bill sort of started it off, that obviously I'm fairly new to the game, and consistency is something I'm looking at. How are you going to approach me as a new student in order to create a relationship that we can obviously foster for some period of time?
Sure. First thing I'm going to ask you, Ted, is why do you play golf?
That was Peter.
I'm
John,
sorry,
that was for Peter.
Fault.
That's okay, John, go. You go with it. You already started.
All right.
Go ahead, John.
John, you go ahead, and then I'll go to John, and then I'll go to Peter after you.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
Ted, why do you play golf? Sorry about that, Pete.
Okay.
Well,
Ted,
obviously,
why do you play golf?
It's a sport that I'm interested in. I have fun when I do go out. I just want to be better at it.
You said an operative word there, fun. What's fun about golf?
It's interesting and it's challenging. I always like, in my business life, I like challenges. So obviously I want to, in whatever I do, I like to be challenged. If I'm not challenged, then I'm bored. And that's why I enjoy golf, and that's why it's fun to me, because it is challenging.
So what is it that you're here? Obviously, you're not having too much fun, or you wouldn't be here with me. What is it that I can help you with that can make the game more fun for you?
Well, obviously consistency, that's one of the areas that I struggle with. You know, I hit some good shots here and there, but there's not a lot of consistency with it. You know, sometimes it's a top shot, sometimes it's a big old slice, and other times it's just all over the place. So consistency is what I'm looking for in order to be able to maximize my game.
Gotcha. And then from there, I'm going to continue the interview process and finally end it with, are you looking for a teacher? Are you looking for an instructor? Or are you looking for a coach?
Okay.
So
Very good.
What are you looking for, Ted?
I think initially I would probably look for a teacher or instructor, and then obviously if I felt a comfort level that to continue the relationship, then obviously maybe into more of a coaching model would be something that I would be interested in. So that would be probably my answer. Gotcha.
So you're going to get a coach, because I believe that's the top of the line of those three. And what we're going to do has a lot to do with you both on and off the golf course. You have access to me when you're off the golf course, because that's part of this. I'm part of your team, and there's going to be times when I'm not around when you need me, and so forth, so on. And that's pretty much the differentiation that I try to do is fun, find out exactly what they're having fun at or what they're not having fun at, why they're there, and then have them understand we're establishing the relationship right then and there, and this is the expectation I'm giving you out of me.
Well done. Well said. Peter, now it's your turn, and then Allison.
Yes, I'm Ted. Ted, if you're, it sounds like you're a recreational player. You're playing, corporate events. You're playing infrequently. I want to invite you to come play a few holes with me, and that way we can spend some time together. You can play some holes. We can talk about everything. We can take a look at your game, and we can really we can prioritize, parts of your game, or just take a look at the whole thing in the real environment, and then we can prioritize what item is going to make the biggest impact first, and then we can, make a plan from there. That would be, that's what I want to do for you is be out on the golf course with you, really the environment we play, and then we can make a plan, and if you want to be part of a coaching program with me, I'm happy to have you.
Perfect. Well said. And certainly last but not least, Allison, I've come to you as a new student or potential new client. How would you approach me, if you would, or invite me, if you would, to become a better player? Why would I want to connect with you, per se, in this endeavor?
I think first off, I would ask how you came across me. What attracted you to reach out to me, to contact me? Most students at some point have done at least a little bit of research about a particular instructor, whether it's cost-based or accolade-based or location-based or facility-based. So I would flip the question around and kind of answer that question with, well, what attracted you to come talk to me about your game? And through the interview process, which I usually do pretty in-depth with all potential students to see if we're a good fit, I would just kind of articulate about how you are unique as a golfer and will have different unique needs, which definitely matches up to my unique background in where I come from for teaching. Bridging the worlds of psychology and golf performance together allows me to provide more of a holistic approach to coaching and teaching rather than just focusing on swing mechanics. And ultimately, that's kind of like the best package to help you perform better on the golf course. In terms of my mode in working with you as a student, I really take a student-centered approach. And what that means is based on what your needs are in a particular day, based on what your short-term goals are and your long-term goals are, you and I will then customize a plan that fits your body, that fits your time constraints, and fits your pocketbook in order to create the best opportunity for you to be the best version of the golfer that you desire to be. So what's kind of interesting about my approach is that it's not really on my terms or how I want to teach. It's all customized to you, your learning style, your needs, your time frame, what your body can do, your equipment, certainly making recommendations along the way with my expertise and my wisdom, but ultimately finding your best path to better your golf game. And that would be my approach to you, and just to kind of let it sink in and see if that that method is attractive to you.
Very well said. Thank you, Allison. And sold, by the way. That was a great answer. You were all of you had great answers. The reason why I asked this question, guys, is this. I've talked to a number of different individuals who have taken lessons and so on and so forth. And one of the interesting things that was brought to my attention a little while ago was, and again, the reason why I didn't want you to necessarily talk about credentials and things like that was certainly not to take away from, because you've all worked very hard for where you're at. But to be truthful, most golfers out there, other than certain things, PGA, LPGA, coach, that type of thing, those types of titles, really don't understand a lot of the credentials that we all may have because they're not in the industry. So to them, that's not really important. And again, I'm not trying to take away from anybody's skill level, but I wanted to see, without using that, how everybody would sort of put together a plan, if you will, in getting me to enjoy the game, to participate more, and to want to participate more, and what specifically might you zero in to meet the needs that I may have. And I think sometimes as golf professionals, when we're out there in social media land and so on and so forth, people just want the very basic and understanding of what it is. As you all pointed out, here's what I'm going to do for you. It's not what I can do or what I'm capable of doing or how much necessarily experience I have, because obviously if I've, excuse me, as Allison and all of you have suggested, if I'm going to research a little bit as to who you are, I'm going to get an idea of essentially what you've done and where you've been and where you've worked before I contact you, or it may be through a referral of a friend. So I've already had some sort of insight as to who you all are. But now I want to decide, okay, who's going to be the best fit for me? And you guys all came from different approaches and different ways, but had a lot of similarities as well. And that's a good thing. I think that, having consistency in an industry, but at the same time, having the flexibility of being unique is also an added bonus as well. So well done, guys. I know it's not always easy to jump on a question like that without doing certain things and having a lot of heads up. So you guys did a great job. Thank you for that. All right, I want to ask you each a question, sort of a follow-up to this. And since we started with Bill, we're going to go to John, and then Peter, Allison, and then Bill, you're going to go last. So John, this question for you is, in your opinion, and this is strictly your own opinion, doesn't necessarily have to fit with the industry model, what is the most important factor, do you think, in being a good teacher or instructor or coach? You can put whatever label you want.
I would sum it up in a phrase: the flexibility to listen and adapt to the student's needs that's in front of you right then and there. It's really quite that simple. If you can't bend and flex, and as Allison very succinctly said, be there for the student's needs, you're never going to figure that out if you can't listen to figure that out. And it won't work. You won't be very successful at this for very long.
Right. Well said. Peter, your thoughts, do you concur with that, or do you have some other thoughts as well? That was for Peter. Peter, did you get that?
Sorry, John. You really have to be empathetic and have the ability to put yourself in the position of every player that you come across, and be able to not to listen like John said, but you have to also be appreciative of their experiences, their everything that encapsulates them. Just as Allison said, I completely agree with her in the sense of being player-based and player-centered, and making it about them. It really is all about the player, and the instructor or coach's level of empathy for that player's position and where they would like to go is really, I think, the most important thing.
Right. Well said. Allison, what do you think? What's, in your opinion, do you think is the most important factor in being a good teacher or coach? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think the flexibility answer and being able to move with the student where they go is top-notch. But to come up with kind of a new answer to add on to that, I would think it's really hearing and listening to the student, but not just to the words that they're saying, interpreting the meaning behind their words. So a student can talk to you about disappointment, but you might start to pick up from them some other pieces of their life that are really influencing their performance. And so a really good listener for a student will actually reframe the comments that they're making. They will sort of summarize what they've heard, and that allows the student to feel heard and to feel understood. And a lot of times students just really want to be heard. They just want to know that the instructor has understood what they've told them, and again, they can empathize with what's been told to them. So I think when we use our deeper listening skills, we create a much stronger bond and relationship with our student, which certainly helps the learning process.
Wow, very well said. Bill, I think you probably concur with that. Is there anything that you want to add in making an impact as a teacher? What makes a good teacher, do you think?
Yeah, I agree across the board, and especially Allison, very good job bringing that forward. I will add one thing to it. The hearing is one thing, but the listening, as you say, you got to get to their heartstrings. And I think the thing that I would add on top of that is I'm going to define to you how it works, and it works within your brain. I'm going to go ahead. We'll talk with players. You have to be able to empathize. You have to understand what they do for a living. You have to understand things to give analogies. Because when we can make it common ground for a player, they're gonna rise and they're gonna play way better than they ever thought they could. But I really feel that the definition is one thing, especially this day and age, with internet and everything else. We don't do a good enough job sometimes defining what it is. When somebody says straight back, there could be 800 different definitions of that. And that's where the player gets confused, and we want to avoid that confusion.
Right. I agree. Peter, I'm going to start with you on this one, and then we're going to go straight down Peter, Allison, Bill, and then John. I recently, in the last couple of weeks on Coach's Corner, I've talked about an industry report that was put out by the National Golf Foundation. And again, these are sort of general stats, but one of them kind of stuck out that I think is very interesting, and I would like to get all of your feedback as well. Approximately, Peter, I'm going to start with you. Approximately 50% of all golfers to date, and this is based on a report that came out this year, but based on statistics from 2017, and this is only in the United States, so of approximately 23 to 25 million golfers, of those golfers, approximately 50% of those still struggle to break 100. What would you do, Peter, to help lower that statistic?
That's a fairly broad question, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it starts just from what we're doing and what I do on a daily basis is just helping people understand, the strengths in their game. There's a lot of things that you can do with people that I'm sure Allison will concur with this that have to do with much more of the emotional and mental side and decision-making side of playing the game of golf that are going to move the needle on their score more than actually touching technique or making any kind of change. For me, I look at the most unintrusive way that I can help either change their scoring habits, their decision-making habits, or a very inintrusive way to just isolate why they already hit good shots and then help them reinforce that into the swing. Because there's, if you have a person that's playing a regular game of golf that calls himself a golfer, they hit good shots already. And if you can help them understand why that's already happening, and then they're standing up there with that plan on a consistent basis, then you're giving them an opportunity to stop trying multiple things during the course of a round of golf. And then on the other side of the equation, if they understand why what they're doing or why the missed shot is happening, and really make it very singular, make their focus and put their focus in the most important place and have it be as singular as possible, then you can start moving the needle on score. And, you talk, again, go back to decision-making, the mental side, and then if you need to, you can touch technique. It can move the needle so far. I see it on my college players all the time. We talk primarily about decision-making, and that can really move the needle quickly as far as scoring goes.
Yeah, Allison, Peter brings up a very interesting point. Most of the golfers that play with any sort of regularity, and one of the other numbers I want to throw into this stat is of the sort of average golfers that are out there, certainly not everybody, but they're playing an average of about 19 rounds per year, depending on where they are and what groups they're in and that. But essentially, that's sort of the industry average. So most people that are playing with that sort of frequency, they may not be the best ball strikers, but they have some skill level. What do you see as a way of moving that needle, as Peter suggests, and getting some of these golfers to start breaking that 100 barrier? Is it a mental thing, do you think, for a lot of them? Is it more the physical side of the game, or is it a combination of both, or is it something different?
Well, ultimately it comes down to how many times they hit the golf ball. So if we can figure out a way, whether that's mental or whether that's physical, to hit the golf ball less times than 100, we're getting them to break that barrier and get into the 90s. And I think probably the quickest way for the average golfer to break that threshold is through the short game. And we hear that a lot, but I don't know if amateur golfers really understand what that means. Because when I interview my students and they come for a driver lesson, and let's say they're a 20 handicap, and they really want to hit the driver and they really want to hit the driver straight and far, they talk about that being make or break for their game. So if they're hitting the fairway, then the rest of the game is easy. But upon investigation, when we talk about when you're 20 or 30 yards away from the hole, how many chips or how many pitches plus how many putts are starting to add up to the score, it's more than what we think as golf professionals as being having a proficient or a great short game. It could be an additional 4 to 5 shots. So if someone really wants to lower their score, put away the driver, put away all the swing mechanics, and learn how to putt and chip. And there's a lot of different ways to putt and chip effectively. It doesn't have to be what you see on TV. It doesn't have to be textbook. It's the best way to get the golf ball in the hole faster than anybody else. And if an individual, the average golfer, can break less than 2 putts per hole, we're going to start shaving off shots. If we can just make 1 chip per hole, we can start shaving off shots. So I would prefer to start more small and then build a golfer back up into the full swing as that approach to lower their scores.
Very, very interesting analysis and well said. Bill, I want to inject one other final thing in here just to maybe add to your answer a little bit. We've obviously in both of Peter's and Allison's, we've heard about, the mental side and also maybe some modification even to the physical side a little bit. But is also the numbers that we're playing with in golf, should that change in order to give a different perspective? And let me explain what I'm talking about. In a given day, we think of par as par 72 on most golf courses. Obviously, there's some variations. You might find one that's 71 and some that's 73 and so on and so forth. But generally, par is 72. But that is a pro par. That is what the best players use as their measuring stick. Would it be beneficial to some of our really high handicappers, those that are struggling to break 100, if we change that? And I'm not talking about an industry, but from a mental standpoint, if bogey golf or 90 becomes the new par for them. And the reason why I ask that question is that gives on every hole 1 extra stroke for them to work with. And if they're able to make par the new par, they've already broken 100 without really having to modify their game. What do you think of that theory, and what do you have to add with respect to changing that needle?
I mention that with customers and players all the time, Ted. We talk about what's par, what's this, and players can't get their arms around things a lot of times. I have a player that's trying to break 100. Mention it just similar to what you did. If you make 6 on every hole on 18 holes, that's 108. If you make 5 on every hole, you got 90. What's halfway in between them? 99 is
right.
5.5 a hole. Right. So we start to be able to give them things that they can get their arms around. So often, no matter what level player, if it's a player that's trying to break 70 or 80 or whatever, we need to be able to find that constant that's going to be very, very simple for them. And, going back to the rest of the conversation as well, we always worry about what went wrong. And I have players always that time, going back on a little bit of what Allison and Pete were saying, let's focus on what makes it right. Instead of sitting there 3 holes later, you made a 7 on that hole, but you can make 4s on these next 2. So guess what? We're right back on schedule. We're one shot above where we need to be. So, I think that's one of the things. It goes into the negative mindset plus the, it just, you can't get your arms around what you're trying to do sometimes. If we can take it in smaller bites, like you're saying, if we can average 5 a hole, that's 90. And, we start to get into that type of mindset. Now, all of a sudden, players start to score. And going back with Allison, I have players all the time that come to say, I chip great and I putt great. I said, well, how many putts do you average for 18 holes? Well, I 2-putt everything and have an occasional 1-putt. I said, we're not talking a good putter until we get to 30. And, it's everybody's perception of things, and we have to kind of change the sliding scale a little bit, if that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, perfect sense. Great answer. John, is it a little bit of all of the above? Obviously the mental side of the game and getting inside the player's head a little bit and finding out what it is that they're maybe having some anxieties about, what's making them struggle a little bit out in the golf course. Is it changing some of the dynamics in their golf swing to help them to groove a better swing? Or is it to add one more component, as I suggested, to the mental side, by changing par for them, making par a different number to help alleviate some of that anxiety? Because I can tell you there's a lot of players out there, even players that have played for any length of time. As we get older, obviously our bodies change and unfortunately our numbers tend to go up. But is that an option as well to help in the process? What are your thoughts?
I'm gonna start by saying that all three of my panelists are just brilliant at what they do, and their answers are absolutely on the mark. But before we as great golf coaches can help anybody with what was said and prioritize it and be customer centric, that's really the key here. We have to break down the barriers to get people out to do it more often. I take a little bit of question to NGF numbers that they play 19 times in a year. That equates to 2.73 rounds a month. With the distractions, with the life priorities, with the other things that go on, and we're talking about a male, not a female, not being able to break 100. I don't necessarily see that a lot, other than the absolute beginner. A beginner is not someone who plays 19 times. So I take a little bit of hey, I'm not sure about those numbers, but what it does say is.
Yeah.
As Allison hinted at, the more times you strike it, the better you're going to get at it. So we have got to create avenues, opportunities, and I don't mean for this to sound like an industry rant because of my political position. I actually firmly, passionately believe this. We've got to break down some barriers to get people out there more often so they can understand that par doesn't apply to you, and this does apply to you, and here's why. And by the way, here's how the math adds up, and let's concentrate from the hole backwards, not from the lustful driver down. And let's go out on the golf course and let's teach you how to use decision-making skills that you do in daily life and apply in the golf, and or vice versa. Let's find a way that you make a better decision in golf. It may apply in life. And when you start doing those things, but most importantly, have people feel a lot more warmed and invited to be there to hit a bucket of balls or to play 4 holes. We don't have to start them out at 18. We just got to break down the barriers to get them there. So those 3 strategies mentioned by Bill, Allison, and Peter can now take effect. They're tried and true. There's science behind it all. But we've got to get them out there so the repetitions can become multiple, not singular.
Yeah, and just to, well said, John. Just to go back a little bit about the stats, I think when they're talking an average, obviously they're taking an industry average. Obviously, there's a lot of players that are out there that may be only playing, a couple times a year, and there's other players that are probably playing several times a week. So I'm sure that adds to bumping that number up a little bit. Allison, I want to throw this, even though I know this is kind of out of order. From what I've been trying to do here tonight, I want to ask you this question first, and then we will go to Bill, Peter, and then John. So here's the question, Allison, for you. Becoming an elite player takes a lot of what?
Self-discipline.
Okay.
So to expand on that, I think that
yes.
You could say it would take time, it would take hard work, all those cliches, but I think it really takes self-discipline. And self-discipline is really all-encompassing. It's self-discipline of focus. It's monitoring your practice environment. It's monitoring your nutrition, your health, monitoring how you practice. Everything in order to become an elite player really needs to be mapped out, precise, and specific. That's how people get really good at it. And in order to follow suit with those plans, I think an individual needs to have a lot of self-discipline, the ability to ignore distractions, the ability to make choices that maybe they don't feel like practicing that particular day, so they don't. Well, an elite player will go and practice, and they'll make the best use out of it, even when they feel like they don't. And that's working through that uncomfortableness. So I think in order to become an elite player, it really comes down to self-discipline.
Right. Well said. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, did I say Peter next? Or Bill?
I think it's me, Bill. Yeah.
Okay, Bill. All right.
I'm
sorry.
not keeping.
Bill?
I'm not keeping the scorecard, Ted. So don't worry.
No, I don't. Okay, so question to you: becoming an elite player takes a lot of what? What, in your opinion, what do you think it does to take an elite, to become an elite player?
Going back a few years, the late Tony Holguin, who was a very good friend of mine and a bit of a mentor, he won the 54 Texas Open and 48-49 Mexican Open. He was a wonderful player. He served on the board here in Illinois for 12 years, won all our majors here, and he was like an under-the-radar kind of guy. And I asked him that question one time. He said to me, Billy, it's right in your heart. And that goes back to a bit of what Allison said, the discipline. It's in the heart, and the confidence is what makes that elite player. And if they're not putting in the time that they need to in the gym, they're not eating correctly, they're not hydrating correctly, they're not practicing enough or practicing the correct things, that confidence and the heart is always going to have a question. And I think, that's maybe a little different way of saying what Allison said. But, I'm taking that from a guy that won his first tour event in 48. And, he went toe-to-toe with Sam Snead, 64-66. And, that's some days ago, but he was a pretty darn good player. And first time he got invited to the Masters, he couldn't go because he was an assistant at Pelham Country Club, and the head pro wouldn't let him go. So the heart, I'll take Tony's word for it. The heart and the heart and the confidence, which goes right back into what Allison's saying, the discipline. I think it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's wow. That would be a tough thing to hear, that you couldn't go and compete in the Masters from your boss. I think I'd be having some words that I can't air on live radio. But yeah, that's a tough break there. But no, well said. I agree with you 100%. Peter, you obviously, and John, I think I was going to go to you, but I'm going to go to Peter this time first. Peter, you have the opportunity to work with a lot of young guns, if you will, that are maybe having their sights set on one day becoming, a top player. So you have the unique ability to help mold them into that position right now. So what do you think, and use maybe some of your discussions that you have with some of the players that you're working with at the collegiate level, what discussions do you have with them for those that maybe are interested in one day becoming the next elite player?
I would say some of the college players are, you definitely have different conversations with them player to player, but and I think in my broad look at being really an elite player at the highest level, I feel as though you have to have mental toughness. You have to at some point, I think if you look back across, I think this past year is a little bit of a microcosm of history. The people who rise to be successful have overcome some level of adversity through their lives or something, and they've grown to realize that they have that level of self-awareness and that self-confidence that they can overcome whatever's coming, because, I think the round of golf is an extremely emotional experience, and you have to overcome a lot of situations, a lot of emotions, quite a few moments of self-doubt. In order to do that, you have to have a level of toughness that only comes from having overcome whatever that you've had to overcome in your life. And I think that you can find that in any avenue of any pursuit, really. In my opinion, some of the most successful people have overcome quite a bit and have become exceedingly mentally tough and self-aware because of it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. John, I'm going to get you to wrap up that question. Becoming an elite player takes what?
Let's not leave Allison out.
No, Allison's already answered.
Peter. Oh, that's right. My fault. I apologize. I wasn't sleeping. The way I'd wrap it up is there was a story told to me by Michael Jordan. I was an acquaintance of him a long time ago, and I asked him what was the difference between playing for coach at University of North Carolina versus playing in the pros after his rookie season. And he basically said, in high school, the physical, everybody is just such a wide dispersion of physical prowess that, the best physical people get to college. When you're in college, that physicalness gets narrowed a bit and the mental does come out. And by the time you reach the pros, physically, everybody's within 0.5% of each other. It's the people who can do it day in, day out from a mental toughness standpoint of view that actually get it done. And he told me at that point that he had a lot to work on, that a Larry Bird, a Magic Johnson, those people of that era just had it all over him because they never took a play off. And that was something he had to learn. Going with that, and I want to say this is a paraphrase of a Richard Branson quote, that what it takes to be elite at anything is the passion to understand that you're never making a sacrifice, the commitment to understand that there's never a distraction, and the understanding that there's never a ceiling. And if those three things fall in line, not only is the mental toughness there, the ability, the path has been cleared for you to reach whatever potential lies ahead of you. It's literally a matter of committing to it, being totally passionate when the passion's gone, and then realizing the competitor next to you doesn't see you at the top or anyone else other than themselves, and they're not satisfied with being at the top. They're trying to reach the next level. And if those things fall into place, you can overcome a lot. You can overcome a lot of maybe physical deficiency or fitness deficiency or whatever the case may be. There's documented proof. Whoever knew that Tom Kite would have been the all-time leading money winner until Tiger came along? He was legally blind. But he had those three things. He had the commitment, he had the passion, he had the understanding. It was just never enough to rest on your laurels. And that's what I tell every player that seeks that. You've got to have those things. It's okay if you don't, but that's also going to mean that maybe your goals aren't as realistic as you believe them to be.
Well said. Very interesting analogy. Going quickly, I had another question that was different than this, and I was going to pose it to all three of you, but we're not going to have enough time to do that. So I want to add on to what we just talked about, and I'm just going to go through the pecking order again. Allison, I'm going to go back to you. Obviously we heard some great answers as far as becoming an elite player, and it does take discipline. It does take that commitment and certainly mental toughness. But very quickly, if you can, what happens as an elite player when mentally you break down either as a result of your physical game or just emotional pressures that may creep in from other outside elements? How do you regain yourself and your composure? You've obviously got the skill level to get where you've gotten, but sometimes mentally, and we've seen this time and time again over many decades on the PGA, and I'm sure even on the LPGA Tour, where a player has just sort of broken down and had to sort of refine themselves. What do you suggest for a player like that? How do you handle that?
I think if you come up with sort of a SWOT analysis of your game, looking at the strengths, the weaknesses, where are some opportunities to improve, some maybe threats to the mental game, you can really kind of come up with a clear plan of where an individual is breaking down when it comes to emotional regulation, concentration, visualization. So I really think that a player needs to take a really good assessment of themselves, not necessarily the mechanical side, but the mental side. Where are they starting to see themselves break down? Is it throughout the course of tournaments? Is it on the final 3 holes? Is it starting off a tournament? Once you have a better idea of the areas that the mental game is starting to weaken, then you can either find like a sports psychologist or a coach who can help mentally work on those performances. Could be building up confidence. It could be using, like, let's say, focus band and improving one's concentration over shot. So to answer that question, I think an individual needs to have a self-assessment to find out where the areas are, and that really takes a great level of self-awareness.
Yeah, I agree. Great answer. Bill, very quickly, your thoughts on that? Obviously, it happens to elite players sometimes that, the chair comes out from underneath, if you will, or the stool comes out. What do we do to help fix it?
Well, one of the things going on Allison's thought there is I go back to routine. And I do a very good, especially with the elite players, we're timing our routine. And I'll find something will change. If they take 2 looks at the target and then fire, they may be taking 1 or they may be taking 3. More likely they're taking more. The timing starts to get out of whack. Then the physical starts to get out of whack. It's got to be a holistic thing. As she said, everything moves together. And if we get one little piece of the puzzle gets thrown out, taking an extra rehearsal swing or taking your rehearsal swing without a purpose can create some of these issues. Now, a physical issue may have created that, but we can also erase it by allowing you to utilize your routine better.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, I agree with that as well. We've seen that time and time again. A lot of times if you watch players on Sunday, especially when they've been in the lead, suddenly their game will literally, I hate to use this term, but go south, and you'll kind of think to yourself, what's going on here? What's happening? A lot of times you'll see they'll start to fall out of their normal routine and are just for some reason not able to get back into it in the round. We've seen that time and time again over the years. Peter, very quickly, any additional thoughts or how do you approach this working with a lot of college players as well? I'm sure you've seen this where they'll be doing well and then all of a sudden things are not so good. What do you do to handle that? That was for Peter. Peter, did you?
Sorry, Ted. We just spent a lot of time on the golf course to provide some context as to why. It's definitely a different discussion for every player, and it's definitely very player centered. Whether it's the college coaching or my professional coaching, and we just make sure we're having an open discussion as to why certain things are happening. And it really is that's the one thing I always believe is that it has to be an open discussion. It has to be two-way. It really can't be just the player has to feel really comfortable sharing and really knowing that you're listening and giving them just your thoughts and how you can help best. It doesn't matter whether it's any level golfer.
Yeah, you're exactly right. A lot of times I think, guys, that you start to play into vulnerability with individuals. Even something like golf, you'd be surprised when the wheels fall off the bus, so to speak. You'd be surprised at how uncomfortable a player can get talking about certain things, unless it's an obvious thing like a physical injury that's maybe causing the problem. But sometimes if there's outside emotions that are affecting, it can be very difficult. And I go back to what Allison said about, maybe seeking out a professional, psychologist or somebody that's trained specifically in dealing with some of that. And obviously, Allison, I know you are. Sometimes that's necessary to get it at the root of what the cause may be. John, just some final thoughts as well on when the chair or the wheels fall off the bus for some of our better players, or it doesn't necessarily have to be an elite player, but how do you handle that?
All the above for the other three, and the other thing I'd throw out, and I think probably the other three do this as well, is benchmarking. That when that good player or that not so good player has reached a level where we know things are going right and they stay consistent for a while, that we need to be benchmarked, not only from a video and three-dimensional way, but also from all angles, mental, fitness, nutrition. What are those things that are part of that routine that are not necessarily clicking? It's just part of the routine while you're clicking, and that's the new benchmark, and that's the standard that you significantly or one by one eliminate the variables that could be the potential for the wheels falling off. When you've got that benchmark, when you've got that standard, it's a lot easier and much less time consuming to try to diagnose why those wheels have fallen off and get to the root cause and at least get back on the horse and go. The benchmark could change. However, when you've got that standard to base yourself off of, it's a lot easier to work from there versus trying to shoot at straws.
Yeah. You're as you said, all of the above. Great answers, guys. Well, John, Bill, Allison, and Peter, thank you very much it's been a very interesting discussion on the Coach's Corner tonight. I wanted to take a little bit different approach to start things off, and it was very interesting to hear all of your viewpoints on the questions tonight. Certainly some crossover and some similarities, but some different injections as well. So thank you guys for doing that. Very quickly, we'll start top to bottom. Peter, how can the folks, if they want to reach out, the best way to do so? And then we'll go Allison, Bill, and John.
Yeah, Ted, thanks for having me on again. Great to spend time with you and everybody else in the panel. Thank you. I agree with John. I think everybody's words are extremely just right on, spot on, very intelligent, very well thought out, and anybody would be smart to seek out any of you. People can reach me at my website is gogolfcoach.com. I use Instagram most often, so if you'd like to find me, I'm at dailygolf.coach. And if there's any questions, please reach out. I have multiple ways on my website to get in touch with me. But again, thanks, Ted. Thanks everybody.
Always a pleasure, Peter. Thank you. Allison, for those that want to reach out to you and connect, how can they do that?
Yes, they can just look up Allison Kurt Golf. That will bring you to my website. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And then if you're curious about any sort of mental approaches to the game or looking to improve your mental game, you can head over to Kurt Performance Therapy, and that's a different website that deals with the mental side of golf. So AllisonKurtGolf.com and KurtPerformanceTherapy.com.
Perfect. Very good. Mr. Abrams, how about yourself? How can we reach you?
Yeah, simplest way is BillAbramsGolf.com. All my contact information is there, and I want to add one last thing. I will be leaving my Chicago area here in about a month and available the 1st of November at a new location at Grand Palms Resort outside of Fort Lauderdale this year. So just simply BillAbramsGolf.com. You can find me there, and you'll have my Facebook, Twitter, and everything out, and YouTube is all there. So, perfect.
Well, thank you as always, Bill. I appreciate it. And last but not least, John, how can the folks reach out to you?
Sure. Bill, Allison, Peter, once again, thanks for being part of the panel. Always an honor to be with you guys. And Ted, thank you very much again. Always a pleasure. People can reach me at John Hughes Golf. Everything that I do is under that moniker: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my webpage. And every second Tuesday when I'm on with Ted at 8 o'clock, I normally post my video tip of the month, so be looking for that in about 3 minutes if you're listening.
Perfect. Well, guys, again, thank you very much. I know it's not always easy after a hard, long day to give of your time, so I appreciate it very, very much, as does the audience that tunes in each and every week. So thank you, guys, and I look forward to you joining me next time on the Coach's Corner panel. God bless to all of you, and be safe in your travels this week, and pray for those that are in the wake of this oncoming storm. So thanks, guys, everybody.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Ted, thanks so much for hosting.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thank you. All right, that was my very special guests on the Coach's Corner panel, John Hughes, Peter Egazarian, Bill Abrams, and, of course, Allison Kurt joining us this evening. I'm going to be joined here in just a moment by my very good friend and special guest, Byron Casper. Of course, Byron is a professional golfer and member of the International PGA, as well as the co-founder of his father's golf schools, Billy Casper Golf Schools. And obviously, Byron is son of the legendary Billy Casper. And he's going to be joining me here in just a minute. But let me just remind everybody, of course, once again, obviously if you're tuning in, you've figured it out. But let me just remind everybody the best ways to tune into the program. Each and every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central, we are live on the blogtalkradio.com network. And you just simply go to blogtalkradio.com/golftalklive or simply type Golf Talk Live up in the search key. Pardon me, and that will take you there. For some reason, if you can't join us live, pardon me, you can just simply scroll down on that link to the on-demand section and find all of the previously aired shows, including tonight's. Will be there in a little bit after the broadcast completes. You'll find the recorded version there. So for some reason, if you've missed a recent episode, or maybe you want to go and visit one of the previous year's episodes, you can find them all there in descending order from the most current, again being tonight's, all the way to the oldest in the on-demand section. Some other great ways to listen and tune into the program is go to iTunes.com, Stitcher.com, TuneIn.com, and of course, TalkStreamLive.com is a new social media platform that you can listen to the shows. Also, don't forget to join Tuesday mornings, also on the same networks, but the Women of Golf show, where my good friend and co-host, LPGA professional and Legends Tour player, Cindy Miller, and I speak with some of the great up-and-comers on the Symetra Tour each and every week, as well as some interesting guests to add their insightfulness into the program. So Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, you can find myself and my good friend Cindy Miller on the Women of Golf show on the blogtalkradio.com network, or Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. Central, where I go it alone here on Golf Talk Live. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. All right, as I mentioned, my good friend, Mr. Byron Casper, is going to be joining me here, and I see that he's ready, so I'm going to bring him on. As I mentioned, he is a great golf professional and a member of the International PGA since 1997, and, of course, co-founder of Billy Casper Golf Schools. And, of course, Billy Casper is his father, and unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but we're going to share some interesting stories tonight. We're going to have a little interesting discussion, as Byron and I always tend to do. So let me welcome my good friend, Mr. Byron Casper. Good evening, Byron. Welcome.
Thank you, Ted. How you doing? Everything going great with you in the radio world?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you? I think you've broken the record now, Byron, for consecutive appearances on my show. I think this is number 4 this year, if I'm not mistaken.
You know what? I think you're correct, and I always look forward to coming on and having a good chat with you and catching up on what's going on in the golf world, both in mine and yours, as well as the golf world in general. It's an exciting time in golf at this time of the year, with the Ryder Cup coming up, and as you know, I have a huge interest in that.
Yep, for sure. Well, let's do that. Let's catch up a little bit. So let's do a quick catch up, and then I've got some questions here that I want to sort of open up a dialogue and discussion with you about some specific things that I think we'll both find of interest. So tell me what's going on in your world. Any new developments? I noticed here recently, for those of you that follow Byron, you've been sporting a sling. What's all that about?
You know, I broke my shoulder in 4 spots in 2012 and had to have pretty major surgery where they took out a 1/4 inch of my collarbone right where it meets the clavicle. And recently I got a new condo, and sure enough, as I was moving a dresser, one of the movers let it slip, and it landed right in that crevice on top of my my collarbone and rotator cuff, and pretty much refractured it. And so I haven't been playing golf for 4 weeks now. I have to give it another 4 weeks before I can go out and play. And I'm wearing the sling right now. I'm just about ready to actually take it off and start putting and doing some short game drills. I had to talk my doctor into allowing me to even do that. You know what it's like when you're used to doing something. Let's just put it this way. I have gotten far too good at Tiger Woods' Xbox golf. And I would much rather be on the golf course myself. So it's nothing major. Definitely getting back to golf, but it has been a very painful time. And I know any of the listeners out there that have had any joint injuries with elbows or knees or shoulders certainly would agree with me on the fact that it is really it's really constricting when you injure a part of your body that gets used on a daily basis.
Yeah, I can't say with any great honesty that I feel your pain, but I understand what you're going through, and I know it can be difficult and challenging at times. So, speedy recovery, my friend, and hopefully you'll be back out in the golf course in short order. Very quickly, if you wouldn't mind, Byron. Yeah, always there for you. Maybe give us an update on some of the projects that you've been working on. I know when we last spoke, you were getting ready with an opening for a new golf school called the Casper Swing Lab with the OC Launchpad in Irvine, California. What's the status on that? Is that up and going, or is it still in its earlier phase?
Well, it isn't. It certainly is in its earlier phase. We had a piece of equipment that broke, and so we had to put things off for a better part of about 3 weeks. But it is up and running now. We have a full staff of health professionals and therapists, as well as myself and another golf professional that is local to the Orange County area. And again, the thinking behind the Casper Swing Lab and the OC Launchpad is to create an environment where it is very easy to understand and take the time to understand the game of golf and your personal body and physical attributes and injuries and what it really takes in order for you very personally to become the golfer that you want to be. We have a lot of ladies that are coming in for tuition because they like the one-on-one without having a lot of prying eyes, and of course we have a lot of people that have had injuries, much like myself, that really want to enjoy life, including golf, but are faced with the fact that they're going to have to change a few things around in their life in order to do that. It's kismet, I guess I should say, because having been injured so severely myself, I have a very, very vested interest in helping the people that come to see us, because I understand how debilitating an injury can be, especially when it comes to doing something that you love to do. And there's a lot of golfers out there that probably would be playing golf if they knew that they could do it without continuing to re-injure that particular part of their body that is more sensitive than others. So, it really is about making a difference in people's lives in general, specifically for myself and my clients, golf. But it really is a wellness center, a place where you can come and feel good, get a smoothie, understand nutrition, see a therapist, and get a one-on-one or a small group golf lesson in the comforts of a wonderful studio with state-of-the-art equipment.
Wow. Now, if they want to, Byron, I know we get the information the last time, but if they want to go and learn more about that, I believe they can go to your website correctly. Is that correct, ByronCasperGolf.com?
Yeah, if they go to ByronCasperGolf.com and click on the menu to the left, it'll bring up a page specifically talking about Casper Swing Labs and what we're accomplishing in the world of golf as well as health. It will also give you a link to either email or give us a call and set up time to come in and see us.
Perfect. We'll read that out again a little bit later on in the broadcast just to remind everybody when we get ready to close out. So if I forget, remind me, okay, Byron, because You know,
absolutely.
We get a little bit,
absolutely.
It's we're both getting up there in years. I'm a little bit, I think, older than you, so my memory sometimes slips. All right, Byron, I want to talk to you. I thought, we've talked before. You and I privately have talked before about this particular area, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. And I'm talking about, of course, junior golf. And lots of youngsters, various ages, have that interest in getting into junior golf. But sometimes it involves a discussion, and you and I are going to have a little bit of a discussion here. So I would like, from your perspective, and I'll certainly throw my 2 cents in there as well, because obviously you do have a little one. Walk us through, if you will, the discussion parents should have if their child is interested in playing golf as a junior, and what are some of the do's and don'ts that should be included in that discussion. So obviously, if you've got a child that's come to you and said, Mom, Dad, I've been watching Tiger or whatever on TV, and that kind of looks like fun. We know kids sometimes can get wrapped up and want to play a lot of different things, but golf is a little bit different. It's a little bit more challenging, and it's also, let's be honest, it can be a little bit more cost, indicative. So we want to make sure that conversation is one that's is definitely going to be given. So what would you walk us through a little bit of that discussion? What should parents be, inquiring about, asking the child about, and what steps should they do or take if they want to get their child involved in a junior program?
It's interesting. I'm glad that you asked that question. Recently, I had an opportunity to volunteer at the I think it's called the pitch, putt, and drive, or I'm sure I've got the order wrong, but specifically for junior golfers. And as I was working and with some of the other volunteers and the people that run it, and paying attention to the kids that were there, it was very interesting to me, because I actually took the time to pull one of the parents aside and talk to him and his partner about their daughter. And the reason for that was because she was a 8-year-old that you could tell within her first swing that she had a ton of natural talent. And my first question to the parents was, how does she have this? Is this something you guys do? Is it? And it turned out that neither of them were golfers, but that she had played a lot of golf with her grandfather, and just basically had a love of the game. And so I'd spoken to them, and I'd said, she is an ideal candidate for really promoting the game of golf, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to promote the game of golf too heavily to a junior golfer that is kind of indifferent about it. If they're indifferent or on the fence, then you need to make that a fun experience for them and take away the pressure of having to learn or do this right or that wrong, and take all of that pressure away for somebody, for a junior golfer that's on the fence, and make the experience. But every now and then you will find a child that just has an extreme amount of talent, and they don't give up. You see them hitting ball after ball after ball until they get it right. And that's pretty rare. I'm sure we see that in a lot of different sports, but being an expert in golf, that's what I'll talk about. And so I think there's multi facets to how you would talk to a parent, depending on what their child is showing as far as talent, and as well as showing whether or not they really are enjoying themselves. I think that us as parents, we have a responsibility to, one, kind of guide, maybe not push, but guide or help kids into not only a sport that they love, but something that they feel that they can actually do something with. Whether that's playing on a high school team or playing in little local tournaments. It's great for them. And I've seen it time and time again where going out and enjoying the game of golf with a family member or with friends has a trickle-down effect that can improve every aspect of your life. But again, I really put the emphasis on making it enjoyable for the juniors, because that really is the key to keeping kids in the sport of golf. We've all seen time and time again kids that showed incredible potential, and then when they get to be 15 or 16 years old, they just fizzle out. That happens a lot more than I think we even realize. And I would guess from all of the students that I've worked with, and this is just a guesstimate, but from all the students and families that I've worked with, I'm guessing that about 50% of those kids that end up falling away from the sport do so because they just feel far too much pressure. And I think that there's a time for pressure, but I think that comes more at the teenage and onward years rather than the real junior golfers that we're just trying to get interested in, one, the sport, because we need golfers in this sport, and two, it really creates a level of camaraderie that you don't find in other sports. How many other sports can you sit and have a conversation between shots? How many other sports can you constantly learn and still feel like you don't really know everything about it? And I think that's one of the beauties of this beautiful game of golf.
Yeah, well said. And that is a challenge. I want to go back just for a second, though, because you obviously rolled out the point that I was looking for, and that is, and I want to use this young lady that you gave as an example to continue on our discussion. You know, you said that she obviously learned to play and enjoyed playing with her grandfather. One of the dangers, and you pointed this out, is really pushing. Because even though she's got certainly some ingrained talents, she may not necessarily have a desire to play competitive golf. Her only connection may be something that's special that she shared with her grandfather. That may be a unique experience that she shares, a memory, if you will, of something that her and her grandfather have in common. And one of the things that I see as well, and I'm sure, Byron, you would concur with this, is when parents see that their child is either excelling or shows an inordinate talent in one area, and again, we're talking golf, all of a sudden it's, well, let's get the coaches in and let's get this in, and it may not necessarily be what the child wants. So that's definitely part of the discussion that we have to have with the parents, and that is, let that unfold naturally. Let those talents continue to grow. And if the child shows, a vested interest in wanting to take it another level, and it's not just, hey, I'm playing with my granddad here, then that might be time to have a discussion with the child and say, let's look at some options here. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that 100%, and I would also throw in there as a caveat to that comment that don't be in a rush to get your child golf lessons, because I recently, as in about 3.5, 4 weeks ago, worked with a teenager who was wanting to make the high school golf team as a freshman. And he loved the game and just had a built-in love for it, played a lot of golf with his dad. And after an 1.5-hour session with him, I went 3 stalls down and started doing another lesson. And this kid was still there 45 minutes later, working on some things that we had discussed. So, you'll know as a parent when it's time to get coaches or pros involved with what your child is doing. But if you rush that and you try to rush the relationship, that can also end up backfiring, because there's been a lot of times where if you don't gel with a student or vice versa, they're not going to listen to you, and you're going to be frustrated as a professional. Fortunately, I have a very good track record in that. I've quite frankly, I've never found anybody that's frustrated me with regards to learning the game of golf. And I've been very lucky, and I've taught thousands upon thousands of lessons. But I have been very lucky to get people that were interested in really learning everything about the sport. But again, taking the time both to find somebody that's going to be good and give you good quality information, but also at the same time somebody that your child is willing to listen to, I think are important factors.
Yeah, and I think too, and I look at this more from a collegiate. Obviously, there's other steps beforehand, but this is something too. You raised a very interesting point. A lot of times our juniors will get out there and be playing and having fun and doing great, and then they get around that age, 14, 15, and maybe they've kind of got burnt out, or now suddenly, they've got some other interests, and they're dropping out of golf a little bit. It might only be temporary in some cases, but other cases it may be more permanent. So there's a time, I think, for parents to understand when it's okay to give them a little nudge in a certain direction and when to back off. And that's a discussion that they can have if there's already a coach or teaching professional in play. That's a discussion that really, we have to make sure the parents fully understand, because sometimes there can be a threshold if you don't select the right time to give them that nudge. It can be the difference of them getting out of the game altogether, or not, maybe missing an opportunity. So it's a very delicate balancing act. What do you think about that?
Well, absolutely. Oh, I totally agree. But there's also one thing in there that's even more prevalent that I've seen on many occasions. My particular teaching of juniors is really split into really two categories. I mean, you could split it into a lot more categories than two, but on a real base level, you've got kids that are pre-puberty and kids that have already gone through puberty. Because what happens both with men and with boys and with girls is that their bodies go through changes when they're young. And when they do, they gain strength and abilities and flexibility that they didn't previously have. And if they have the wrong skills and try to actually use those as they're getting stronger, then it can create a lot of problems. And so I think that real basic fundamentals and fun are what small children need. And as they get older and get into teenage years, that's when you can take that power and strength that they're getting and really start to do something with, if they are so inclined.
Yeah, no, I agree. The reason why I wanted, to have this discussion is, I know that your dad, obviously had his foundation, Billy's Kids, and there were other motives behind it. Wasn't to necessarily get everybody playing golf at junior level. There was other reasons why that foundation was formed, but obviously, it starts at the relationships at home first and foremost before it gets out to the golf course with the professionals coming into play. And I'm sure that your dad, if he was with us, would agree that, again, it's okay to give them that sort of gentle nudge, and if they show a vested interest in something, whether it be golf or anything really for that matter, it's okay to explore that. But there's a fine line between exploring it and becoming obsessed with it. And we see that from time to time again. I mean, I've heard stories, coming out of South Central Florida where, kids are literally being bussed in, to some of the top schools in the country, and having to grind it out, day in, day out, to the point where they're literally burned out because they've showed that talent, up at a very early age. And, sometimes parents see an opportunity to say, well, hey, this is what my child is good at, and we're going to do whatever we can. And a lot of money gets put into play. And sometimes they forget, as you pointed out, that maybe the child just wants to have fun for now. Maybe it's not all about playing golf.
Totally.
They just want to get out, right?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's not all about playing golf. And you can draw two comparisons, both from the LPGA as well as the PGA Tour. And you can look at somebody like a Justin Rose and somebody like a Michelle Wie, and both of them are perfect examples of the fact that it does take time sometimes to make that transition.
Yep.
I mean, both of them were iconic junior golfers. They, in their own respect, both of them had done so much as junior golfers that they were expected to hit the tour running at I think
right.
18 and 19 years old, and they're both incredible players, incredibly talented. But if you look at them both, it took them quite a few years before they found not their niche, but really found their game and how to go out and translate that into performance and into winning. And I think they are two wonderful examples that parents can look at and say, okay, what were the mistakes made being pushed too hard in this direction? Why did it take eight or 9 years for Justin to really come out and really be the player that everybody knew he could be? Well, you can get burned out in golf. It doesn't matter how much you love the game of golf. There are things with regards to traveling and playing competitively that nobody really ever talks about. And just the strain of the schedule of being a professional golfer can be really hard. The strain of being a collegiate golfer can be very hard. Even the strain of being a high school golfer nowadays can be hard because the level has slowly crept up. And so I would really look at it as a formula of sorts of enjoying the game first and just really going out with people that are trustworthy and that are family members or close friends and enjoying the sport as a youngster. And then as you start progressing through, time, patience, and ability are going to really show whether or not that particular junior is going to make it or even has a chance to make it all the way. And that's really the world we live in. The one thing I have to say, though, as well, is that the world we live in is slightly different than the world you and I grew up in as well. Parents that were completely aggressive with regards to their children and sport, I think, is not as extreme as it was even 20 or 30 years ago. I think that we saw a lot more of that then than we do now.
Yeah, I think there's certainly, I'm sure, still some around, but yeah, you're right. I think it's, I think part of it too is I think kids know that, they're much more educated in a lot of ways today, and they know that they have other options out there, and it's not always to do what necessarily mom and dad did. But I want to move into another area just a little bit with our discussion here, and that's about women golfers. And I want to just preface this first because I've sort of thrown some of these numbers around a lot here lately on the show, both on the Coach's Corner panel and in some discussions. But recently I talked about on the show some stats that came from the National Golf Foundation. They released their 2018 industry report, which came out, I believe, in June, and we've had some discussions on the panel and threw a couple things in tonight. So here's one here I want to talk to you about and get your thoughts. There are approximately, and again, I'll just say approximate with these numbers, 5.8 million women who played golf on a course in 2017. Women account for 24% of the on-course golfer base and 41% of off-course only play. And off-course might be things like Top Golf, driving range, indoor practice facilities, that sort of thing. So that's where it is. So there's two interesting components to the stat.
Big Shots Golf.
Big Shots Golf, that's right. Good plug.
Yeah, I'll give you an opportunity. Throw in Big Shots when you say there. But yeah, anyway, go ahead. I'm just kind of teasing you, but yes, of course.
No problem. We'll get back to that in a moment. But there's really a couple of interesting things to this component. First off, 24% of women who, again, represents roughly just under 6 million women who played in 2017. That's a pretty good number considering there's roughly about 23 to 25 million in the United States that play golf, both men and women. So that's a pretty healthy number. And 41% obviously, again, is even more so. But those are predominantly, I'm sure there's some crossover. Yeah. But there's another stat, and I don't have the exact numbers, that is a little more disturbing, and that is that of a lot of the women, particularly newcomers coming into the game, there's also a lot exiting the game. There still seems to be a barrier of somewhat, both on the teaching side and also on the playing side for women. There's still some barriers. Now, obviously, I know there are a lot of great opportunities out there through the LPGA and so forth, but a lot of women are still complaining that they're not feeling as welcomed or comfortable in the golf environment. So, first off, how do we sort of stop that a little bit or slow it down? And what changes do you think we need to make as an industry? Because we want more women getting out and playing golf, but if they're exiting golf faster than any other demographic out there, there's a reason for it. What do you think that might be, and what do you think as an industry we need to do to change that?
First let me say that I find that sad with regards to that statistic, because we need a lot more people in golf, and it would be great to really create an atmosphere in golf that appeals to everybody, both men and women, as well as juniors. I think we got over the hurdle of juniors not being welcome at clubs, which we've gone through over the last 30 years. And we need to figure out how to get over that same hurdle when it comes to lady golfers. I think that one of the biggest reasons is exactly what you said, is they're not feeling as welcome when it comes to the golf courses. And, I've seen it time and time again where, a woman will want to play golf, but they don't have any friends that play. And it's not easily accessible for them to go and pick up a game the same way as it would be with a guy. Unfortunately, we don't live in a world right yet where, if you're a guy and you go to your local club, you can pick up a game pretty easily just by standing around. And I don't think that women have the confidence in golf yet with regards to that. I think they feel like everybody's watching them, and because they haven't put in necessarily the time in order to get really good, they feel that all eyes are on them. And we need to change that. We need to change the idea of, if you're not good yet, that you can't go and enjoy this sport. I think all of us, all of us men, should make it a job, a part of our golfing and the love of this game, to try to make the environment much more friendly when it comes to women, and to invite them out to play golf, and to have a little bit of patience when it comes to them not being as good as maybe the people that they're playing with. And, you can trace that all the way back to junior golf. And all of the junior golfers that, are trickling down from the last 30, 40, and 50 years played this game so much that it's almost second nature. Even if they're a 15 handicap, they know the rules, they know how to hit a ball, etc., and they can go out and have fun. So we need to make the environment on golf courses much more friendly for lady golfers. We also need to make and put into place, I think, more programs, including women's clubs and women's mornings, where golf courses only allow the women to go out and play on that particular morning of the week or afternoon, or whatever schedule suits their club and the area that they live in. But really, it comes down to making this sport friendly, not only for women that are playing the game now, but also for the junior golfers that are girls that we really want to promote this game to. They're going to make a big difference in the world of golf, and we've seen a little bit of it with the LPGA being the fastest growing tour, and the fact that they really truly are the only real international tour out there. When it comes to, you look at the international quality of the LPGA, and it just is mind-boggling. It blows my mind how well that they've grown and how well they've done as they've grown. And we need to get that and have that trickle down to junior golfers. We need the environment more friendly. And I think we need to copy done with men's golf for years, and that is have lots of different programs available so that women don't feel like they're out there doing it on their own, that they feel like they've got people that they can go and play with on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and also good LPGA or PGA lady professionals.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. You know, this was, a conversation that I've had before, and I think this is something too. You know, one of the things that if I was to be critical of the industry as a general rule, I think one of the things is that can be very intimidating, particularly for women, is something as simple as walking into the pro shop. Because obviously for most golf courses, that's where you're, unless you've pre-booked, you're walking in and, you've got an assigned tee time, and now you've got to go and you basically got to check in. That's your front desk, if you will. And a lot of times for many courses, you have men behind the counter. You have men servicing the pro shop. So if, for instance, if you're coming in as a group, it's not maybe quite as intimidating because you've got, safety in numbers. But if you're coming in on your own and maybe the other gals haven't gotten there yet, it can be very intimidating because you're maybe not quite comfortable with everything. And I would like to see, and I've said this, probably 1,000 times to people. I really think it would be a smart marketing approach for golf courses, especially given the environment that we have in today's climate and economy, and that to get more and more women running the pro shops. I think they do a much better job of organizing it. They're much better at retail than men are. And I think that they would, I can't begin, and I love this game, but I can't tell you how many golf courses, clubs I've walked into. And, when you walk into the pro shop and you look around, and I've seen better looking displays at Dollar General. And I mean, no disrespect to Dollar General or any other organizations, but, than I have in there. And it's just because they don't know how to make it appealing. And I know that sometimes you have to do what you can with, work with what you got. But I just think that women know how to display things much more appealing. And I think as a woman, if you walk in and you sort of see a woman's touch in that pro shop, already that brings down a little bit of barrier. Even if there's some guys in there, you already know that there are other women involved in that organization. So there's a certain comfort level, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but what do you think about that?
No, I think you're correct. I think that's certainly a piece of the puzzle. It shows you how similar you and I think, because I've thought for a very long time that there needs to be at every golf course that has, any sort of women's program or wants to have a women's program, they need to have a concierge, a woman concierge that specifically is there to promote and bring in more women golfers. I think that one thing alone would go a long ways to getting women in the local areas to go and play golf, giving them a contact that they know they can create a rapport with. Because for years, your golf pro or your assistant golf pros in the pro shop were your go-to guys. They were the guys you grabbed a cup of coffee with and chatted about the weather and the latest news and other sports. And I think we need to give that same environment to women and appeal to what they want. I totally agree that they can create an environment that is very user-friendly. And I'll bring up this example. I had the pleasure of hiring the only female director of golf in San Diego 4 years ago. Roxy, and she was incredible. And everybody was saying to me at the time, you're really going out on a limb, hiring a woman director of golf, and it felt right, and she was extremely qualified. And sure enough, 2 years later, she had a rapport with every single person that came into that golf shop. And when she eventually left, last year, it wasn't just the lady members and the women that were upset that she was leaving. It was everybody that was upset, because I think that a good woman, PGA professional or golf professional running a shop, can do a better, well-rounded, and give a more well-rounded experience to every golfer that comes in. And that's something that we need to remember, especially in today's world, that, we want people to come in. Golf courses only survive because people play their golf courses. And the reason people go and play golf courses is, yes, they like the golf course, but it's also about the rapport and the relationships that they have when they go out to that golf course.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, I've always found it very interesting that for an industry to market itself for products and even services that they would market predominantly to men, given that statistically it's been proven that women are far superior when it comes to decision-making, when it comes to day-to-day shopping and things like that. So it would only, in my mind, make more sense as an industry for us to be looking in a direction that's saying, if we want to get more women out playing golf and having them stay, then we need to start catering to more women, as you suggested, in not just in the pro shop, but in, again, having some sort of a concierge that would greet and there are, I know, some like that already in maybe some of your bigger centers, but it has to be a much broader. And I'm very excited, and this is something I'm going to actually suggest when the time is appropriate. But as I'm sure you're aware, a little bit later this season, in fact, not too far down the road, Susie Whaley, of course, who has been with the PGA of America, is going to be the new president, the first female president of the PGA of America. And I, for one, am very, very excited about that. Because I think, and I hope, that she's going to bring a little bit different perspective. And I know there's a lot of great things with the PGA of America, but I think there is a change. I hope that she will be able to bring. I'm not exactly 100% sure what all of that may be encompassed, but I would like to see some changes made. And I think as an industry, it's long overdue. And I hope that she, and I believe that she has the strength and the determination and the fortitude to be able to make that happen. And I for one, will support her 100%. So it's going to be very exciting. I believe that takes place in November. Yeah.
Yes, you
let
and
me
me
ask
both.
you,
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited about seeing that. And just another quick stat on that, too. Newcomers to golf, again, as I mentioned earlier, are very diverse. 35% are female. This new golfers, it's talking about 26% are non-Caucasian, which, again, is also another interesting stat. And 70%, which I found one of the most interesting of this, 70% of all newcomers to golf are under the age of 35. So, again, this tells you that there is a younger, even the millennials are getting into it in some form or fashion. Obviously, again, Big Shots Golf is
well, it shows you the
making,
desire there. I mean, yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, it shows you. It's really what that statistic shows me, Ted, is that statistic shows me that the desire is there for the younger generations to enjoy this game and to sustain this game. And so, I certainly don't feel old. Okay, at 50 years old, I I would be the first to argue that that I'm not old yet. Okay, but the reality is that statistic shows that the desire is there to learn and enjoy the game of golf. And as golf professionals and owners of golf courses and managers of golf courses, it is absolutely our duty to promote that and to find new ways to help keep these people, both men and women, involved in the sport.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns has been, and I'm not, carving this in stone, Byron, but I think one of the concerns has been there's sort of been an underlining fear of from traditionalists that have enjoyed golf as it has been and as was and will ever be, and I think that this has sort of been what's kind of turned some people off, and I'm all for the traditional form of golf as it is, but I think there's also room for new. For instance, and I'm going to let you give a plug here for Big Shots Golf. These types of venues, coming out there and enticing and getting. And I'm going to mention another as well. Obviously, Top Golf has done extremely well in that category. There's no mistaking that. And they've, even though that's not what we would classify as traditional golf, it's enticed them in a way and opened, if you will, the proverbial can of worms. And I think as an industry, to capitalize on that, we need to now move them from that. They've sort of been bitten by a different bug, if you will, from what maybe you and I growing up in a traditional sense. But nevertheless, they've been exposed to a game that can literally not only give them enjoyment playing for the fun of it, playing competitively or whatever category you want, but can also open up doors business-wise for them as well once they understand some of the many benefits that can be reaped learning to play this great game. So there's an opportunity, sort of a marriage, if you will, from the industry to, create new ways of enticing the younger generations particularly, but yet at the same time, we're not sacrificing some of the traditional components of the game either. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. I agree, except that, being somebody that's always been a traditionalist and growing up with a very, old school father who was very famous in this sport, I would say that I think that, tradition is a wonderful thing and history is a wonderful thing because we can learn and grow from our history. And I don't think that history or tradition should ever be forgotten. But in saying that, right, I believe that we also have to move into, we've all heard that expression, move into the 21st century, but we do need to move forward. And, a quick example of that would be look at equipment. We're not going around playing with mashies or long-nosed spoons anymore. We're playing with balls that go a mile and state-of-the-art equipment. And so, it depends on what you really talk as a traditionalist. A traditionalist could be somebody that wants to still go and play hickory golf, and that's great, and that's wonderful, and there's an outlet for that. But we do need to come into modern times. We do need to create, again, an environment that is user-friendly for everybody. Doesn't matter your race or your sex. What matters is that you have a love and a desire to learn the game. I mean, that's really what's important. And and the camaraderie and the acceptance of that camaraderie is so important. I would love to see a day when women's groups were going out and hosting their own tournaments and running their own organizations. And I know we have that already, but we don't have that to the same extent that the men's golfing world has had for decade after decade. And so we definitely need to create that and make it a lot more fun and also show how it can be used in their business.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly right. And we are seeing, you're right, Byron, we are seeing that now starting to happen. And again, great organizations like the LPGA has done just that with a lot of their programs, girls golf program, and many of the others out there. And by having great ambassadors of the game, much like your father was an ambassador to the game in the women's market. I mean, we've got obviously some that are no longer with us, but Shirley Spork and Marilyn Smith, who are of the original founders of the LPGA, many years ago. In fact, I'm going to be, along with my good friend Cindy Miller, we're going to be interviewing Marilyn Smith and Debbie Whitekiss next Tuesday on the Women of Golf show. Marilyn, of course, has an upcoming tournament. I believe it's October 1st, and she's going to be coming on. And of course, she's well up there in years, but still very active in the game and helping it to grow. So, we need to get some of these traditional pioneers, if you will, in women's golf, more of them out there, and do just as as your father did in his later years, when he was no longer playing as competitive as he once was, but he was still out there helping in other ways to grow the game. So I think we're on the right page here, and I think that there's exciting times ahead. And as you suggested, it doesn't mean that we have to, and we definitely don't want to forget history. I think that's an important part to understand where you come from is important and vital to understand where you're going to go. But you also have to be willing to entertain new and innovative ways to draw people to the sport, and there's a lot of great ways to do that. Byron, I hate to say this, but
I mean, remember, it wasn't until I'll leave you with one other example, and that is the fact that it wasn't all that many years ago. In fact, I don't know if I was even born yet, but it was probably right around the time that I was born, where they were still using a different sized golf ball overseas than we were here in America. And again, that's just another example of, again, coming into more of a modern age. Well, we need to keep that vein going. We need to keep that idea going and continue to make small tweaks and changes to the game that make it a lot more user-friendly, especially for juniors and especially for women.
Yeah, I agree. Byron, as we wrap up in the final moment or two, let the folks know if they want to learn more about Big Shots Golf, where they can go to do that, and then also about the Casper's Swing Lab and Wellness Center, where they can go to get information on that.
Of course. BigShotsGolf.com is where you can read and learn more about Big Shots. Really exciting to be involved with the franchise owners in Utah. And I'm really looking forward to getting that off the ground. Again, it's creating a user-friendly, family-friendly, friend-friendly experience where you can get good golf lessons, enjoy some food, and enjoy hitting some golf balls that have all the bells and whistles of some of the other places, with the added caveat that you can go and, again, get good quality lessons and enjoy the camaraderie that comes from that. So, again, that's BigShotsGolf.com. And then with regards to the OC Launchpad and the Casper Swing Labs, we're doing a lot of new stuff right now, including some club fitting deals and small group deals. I've got a large ladies group coming in next week. There's about 22 of them that are coming in for a series of group lessons. And again, this is what I was talking about before, that we need to make this fun and friendly for women to come into the sport. And you can find out more about that on ByronCasperGolf.com. And again, you'll have an email contact and a telephone number that you can reach out and ask any of your questions, or go ahead and book sessions at the Casper Swing Lab at the OC Launchpad.
Perfect. Well, as always, my friend, thank you very much for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live. I always enjoy, we always seem to manage to have a very interesting conversation and dialogue between the two, and that's why I love having you come back, and I think I can manage to squeak you in one more time before the season ends, and we close out 2018. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think I'll have you on one more time before we'll make it number 5. But thank you, my friend, as always, and again, speedy recovery with the shoulder, and I hope you're out there. Don't overdo it quite yet. You want to get on that Champions Tour, so you don't want to do too much damage. But anyways, good luck, my friend, and I will talk to you soon. And thank you very much, as always, for joining me here on Golf Talk Live.
Well, it's a real pleasure, Ted, and I love what you're doing with the show and the Coach's Corner and the Women in Golf. So keep up the good work. And to all the listeners out there, happy golfing, my friends.
Sounds good. All right, Byron, have a great evening.
Thanks, Ted. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. All right, that was my very good friend, Byron Casper, international PGA member and co-founder of the Billy Casper Golf Schools. You can also go on to byroncaspergolf.com and learn a little bit more about the Casper Swing Lab and the OC Launchpad that they've got set up in California. You can get more information there. And then also, if you want to learn a little bit more as well about bigshotsgolf.com, that's currently going to be in the Utah area that Byron and the Billy Casper Golf Academy are putting together. You can go to that website and check it out as well. Again, just a final thank you to all of the members tonight on the Coach's Corner panel. Great job as always, guys. Thank you to John Hughes, Peter Agazarian, Bill Abrams, and of course, Allison Kurt. Thanks, Allison, for stepping up again this evening to help out. I appreciate it, and I was glad to have you back on the panel. And also to Byron as well. Thank you. Just want to say to all of you out there, all of the listeners, thank you for faithfully supporting the show and tuning in each and every week. And the numbers are just very overwhelming at times, just how many of you are following the show. And I appreciate it very much, literally from all around the globe. If you want to learn more about the show, you can certainly, if you're in the golf industry particularly and you want to come on as a guest, whether you be a teaching professional, coach, or maybe you've got a great product or you've written a book that is designed to help some of our many struggling golfers out there, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. My email is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Thanks to all of the many sponsors and supporters of the show. I'm always appreciative of that. Jonathan Laird from South Coast Golf Guide, Meredith Kirk, who of course was a recent guest, Nikki and Tiffany Litherland, Bernie Pinder from Ontic Golf, Sean Kelly from linkedgolfers.com, and Peter Doyle from Doyle Golf Solutions over in Ireland. Thanks, guys, for all of your continued support. And thank you again to all of the many listeners from around the world for faithfully tuning in each and every week. I look forward to hosting another show next week with, of course, none other than a new fresh panel on the Coach's Corner and another great guest. So I hope you'll tune in. God bless everybody. And for those of you out on the East Coast, from Virginia right down through to Georgia, be safe. Hopefully many of you have evacuated. It looks like Hurricane Florence has downgraded a little bit, so hopefully it won't be quite as bad as what they originally predicted, but it's still going to be potentially life-threatening. So make sure that you get to safety, and if you've chosen to remain where you are, by all means, hunker down and keep your radio and other ways of communication as best you can open, in those lines of communication to those that can offer assistance and help should you need it. Again, God bless everybody, and I look forward to seeing you next week right here on Golf Talk Live.